scene where they all attack that pigeon, I just thought to myself, this company released The Incredibles, a movie that's better.
Yes, great.
Hello?
Come on.
I'm not gonna work. What are you from? 40 participants are there. Showing here, moving history. History. Yeah. Microphone.
All right.
righty, I think we are ready to get going. There are, with this waiting room thing, Barb, if you've used this waiting room thing is getting a little interesting. I keep getting all the participants admit all, admit all, admit all.
Wow.
Okay, so welcome everybody. For those of you, let me back up here. For those of you not familiar, I'm Jeff Blakesley. I go by JB, so if you want to jump in on the conversation, by all means, unmute your microphone and call out. I don't have a grid list because I'm sharing the screen for the presentation. So again, just jump right into the conversation anytime you want to. There are a few changes, of course, because we really have no idea what's going to be happening in the fall. Some of the colleges have already said that they are going to do face-to-face. I know Central and MSU have said they're going to try it and see what happens, but you know, we're going to have to wait and see. So this is all about the college essay. I've got Ms. Slayman on too to add some information about other aspects of the application process. But I like to start off by saying the reason that this works would be the three of these people down here, because they were my kind of more proud moments. So Maleka was my first $10,000 scholarship winner for Harvard. And she said that the money wasn't really the impressive part because, she never saw it. She won it from Coca-Cola. They paid right to Harvard, so she never saw the money. But she was invited down to Atlanta and was able to hear Morgan Freeman say her name out loud. So she said that was the best part of winning the scholarship money. Jacob Dunbar, we got him a full ride scholarship to Full Sail, which is known for game design. And then of course my daughter, who was LAS, which is, for those of you headed to Central, there is something called the Leadership Advanced Scholarship. Highly recommend going after that one. That's a really, really good program. And so we won her a ton of money. The interesting thing about the college essays that I want to make sure that you understand right away is none of these people sent their original essay in. All of them had rewrite after rewrite. Maleka went through 7 different iterations before she finally sent hers in. So just be aware that it's not just sit down, write it, send it, be done. It's something you want to continue to work on kind of over the summer and get it to where you want it to be. So Barb, if you are on and want to jump in to talk about the Common App.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Blakesley. I appreciate you doing this. This is awesome. I think the most important part is the simply fact of never submit first time. Definitely do some review work, definitely do some review of your information. One thing that we'd like to see is the application usually becomes available as of August 1st, the official evaluation. While you do know some of the options for your essays, you can certainly begin those now, and we encourage you to continue to work on those during the summer. But on August 1st, we'd like that you start your application. And the first thing you want to do is, once you've created that account, is send your recommendation requests to your teachers and especially to your counselor. We complete information for you. Your teachers upload your recommendation letters, and it's a good reminder for all of us on your support to start our part of the process. We can submit even if yours is not done, but we certainly want to make sure that we're working on it just the way you are. We're taking our time, doing the best that we can in our recommendations of you, getting clarifying information, maybe checking in with you about what have you done this summer, what would you like us to see included. So those are that's a key part for us in the Common App. And the other is understand, a university that accepts the Common App does not want your transcript. What has to happen is your transcript from Parchment, which all of you have been asked and requested to create your Parchment account, is to have the transcript sent directly to Common App. An example, like it shows on the screen, is don't send it to the University of Michigan for the beginning of the fall. Michigan University will delete it. We will delete it on our end, or just make sure that it's not included. It has to go to Common App. That's the number one thing that stops us from able to submit as the counselor end, is if we don't have that transcript connected to Common App, we can't submit. We are locked in and we need you to do that. So my recommendation always is August 1st, create your Common App account, put your basic information in, send your request to your counselor and your teacher recommending, and then go to Parchment and make your request to go your transcript from your high school to Common App. Just to know, on our end, our secretaries are in charge of the transcripts. They will put your transcripts on hold. They are not released until the middle of the month or to the end of September. That is so that you have a chance to see your transcript. We have entered new students, returning students that may have taken advancement or replacement classes during summer. We want to make sure that all of transcripts are up to date as best as possible. And then as soon as they are released, you will see a huge wave of all the transcripts being submitted. And at that point, that's what we'll be looking for on our end. And again, the deadline for it is we want you to have it done by November 1st, the deadline for first admissions. It does not mean you have to, but we highly recommend. And please know that I believe October 31st falls on a weekend this year. And so that's going to run into a situation where if you think you're going to send a recommendation letter to a teacher on October 31st, they may not see it and they will not have it in on time. So that's why on August 1st, create your account, put your teacher, put your counselor in, submit those, and have those requests sent right away so that we make sure we're doing our absolute best for you. That's what we want. We want to do our best for you as well.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Right now, we don't know that they will extend the deadline at this point in time, just mainly because I think they're kind of waiting to see how the fall begins and how high schools will continue. But I would expect that it will remain the same. I do know that most high schools, if not all, will include in what's called a profile. A profile is connected to every Common App that explains our high school's dynamic, meaning how did we do grading for this semester? What were our students' options? How did we handle testing? When is the SAT for the fall going to occur? All of that will be included in our profile. That could lead to a university saying we're going to wait, but that first deadline is the Common App deadline. So that would be an entire university's, the Common App universities getting together in an agreement to delay it. I'm sure that some universities will be flexible with that, but others, including the University of Michigan, I do not see them extending it. They just have, because it's going to push everybody and every other deadline that much later. So I would still expect that November 1st is your deadline that you want to shoot for. One thing that we also tell kids though too is, I've had a kid that went to University of Kentucky at Thanksgiving. It was not one of their schools they applied to. It became the school they wanted to. It does not mean that after November 1st, you can't apply to a school. You can't do a Common App. It just means now you're in a different wave pool of kids of admissions. So never hesitate from doing it. But if you know your top schools, those should be, August 1st should be your goal to get those started. Maddie, thanks for that question. Schools that request a transcript that are not Common App, those transcripts go directly to that college. So there are two kinds of applications. A school application that is specifically that school's application. It's on their website. It only goes to their school. That transcript should only just go to that school. If it's a Common App, an application that goes to multiple universities, then that transcript needs to be connected to Common App so that can be sent to all of those universities on Common App. And again, for those kids that didn't get their junior conference, you can create a Parchment account all on your own. We did have Parchment codes you may not have received. It just pre-slugged some of your information. So what it simply means is you need to create your account and you'll just have to enter some of your personal information on your own, but it's pretty quick and it's something you can get set up now and make sure that you're prepared for come fall when the official window opens.
All All right. Any other questions regarding anything that we just went over there?
How do we for the sorry,
Go
Mr.
ahead.
Blakesy, for the requestment letters, do you have the format? Remember you said we have a specific way of asking teachers for a recommendation letter?
Yeah, I'm going to give that to you in a minute. It's up on a slide here. So I'm looking at the chat thing. Sorry if I missed it, but can you emphasize that students apply to rolling admission schools before their EA? Okay. Yeah, we'll talk about that in a minute. And how do students create Parchment accounts if they don't have one?
Go to parchment.com. Parchment.com, sign up to create an account. You will choose your high school for where the transcript's going to be coming from, and that's all you need to do at this point in time.
What's the Parchment?
Parchment.com is the website that houses our transcripts, and that's where your transcripts are sent from. We upload our transcripts every semester, and that's how you go into Parchment and say, I want my transcript to go from Salem High School to Eastern Michigan University. I want my transcript from Plymouth High School to go to the Common Application. Your transcript is the record of all your academic from 9th through, it will be 9th through 11th. And that does include if you took summer school prior to 9th grade. And it also includes if you took a language or a math course prior to 9th grade. If you took Spanish 1 and Algebra 1 in 8th grade, that is on your transcript. It does not calculate into your GPA more than likely, but it is included on the transcript so colleges see a full picture of your high school academic learning.
All right. Any other questions?
JB,
Yeah.
Yeah, do you, I was going to ask, if we write our college essay, can we email it to you so you can review it?
Yep, I will talk about that too. All right, anything else regarding what Ms. Lehman can go over?
One other thing I see is about the first semester. Yes, when you sent your transcript, normally in the fall, we will meet with you and show you a copy of your transcript, what it looks like. It includes your work in progress, which means it's the classes that you've signed up for the entire year. A college or university is not only going to make the decision based on your academic achievement and classes you've taken over the last 3 years, but it's also making some decisions based on what you have chosen for your senior year coursework. And when you submit your transcript to that university, it's an agreement that those are the classes you will take, and those are the classes at the very end of your senior year, you will send a final transcript showing the grades for those courses. So that's why we press and push the point that to change a class in your senior year is not good because it's breaking that agreement with that college or university. So your transcript does not only shows your grades and shows your work in progress for senior year. Can you submit your Common App without having your SAT, ACT scores? Yes, actually your test scores go separately. When we take the exams in, I believe we'll be taking it in September for the SAT for the juniors that didn't get the chance to. We will tell you at that time to send your scores directly to your top schools for free. You get a group of scores or 4 options to do so. After that, you have to pay for them to be sent. So if you apply to more schools, but the test scores are not connected to any application. Test scores are sent separately to all universities. And we encourage you to send them all.
All right, any other questions for Ms. Lehman? All right, it looks like we're ready to move on. Common App, the website, I believe it's commonapp.org. What's the latest SAT we should take for scholarships? So there's an interesting thing with the SAT. You know, we're going to have to wait to see. I'm actually going to talk about that in a minute. Let me, before I jump ahead and talk about the SAT with the scholarships and information with that. So a couple of terms to know as you start the process too. The Common Application, which is the one that goes out to many, many universities at once, saves you a ton of time to be able to fill out just one application and be able to send it to all the different universities. Coalition app, not as many universities use it, but it's more for people who are like art-based. So it gives you more opportunities to add things besides your STEM type of classes. So several people have done the Coalition and the Common and kind of leave it at that and then go to the schools there. Depending on what information you want to give them, Coalition gives a little bit more detail into the artistic side. The other two words that you want to be, or terms that you want to be familiar with, early action and early decision. So early action is for those universities that do the rolling. And what happens with that is if you see that a university has early action, you want to make sure to get it in by that date, because what happens is the university will take, I just misspoke, let me correct this. So rolling means that as soon as they get someone in that fits what they want, they take that person and that spot is filled. So if you see rolling admissions, the sooner you get it in, the better, because then you're not competing against all those people. Early action means they're going to take a pool at a certain date and say, these are the people who are the go-getters who hit a certain date, and these are the people we're going to go through and decide right away. So if you see an early action, make sure you meet that deadline if it's a university that you want to attend, because then you have a better chance of getting in from the people who are going to be applying later for those spots. Early decision is a legally binding decision that you'll make. If you take early decision, it means that you are agreeing to pay that university for the full education, and you cannot back out of that legally. You have to go to that university. So be sure you're reading very carefully. If you're doing early action, not legally binding, it's a better opportunity. Early decision, be careful, because that's the one that says, I'm not going to apply to any other colleges. I am going to pay your college no matter whether I go there or not.
If I can add the early decision piece, if you decide to do common application and go early decision, there is a part where we will call you in or contact you and make sure that you do understand, because we have to sign off on a form as the counselor to make sure that we've had that conversation with you and that you're aware that early decision means if you get accepted that school, you're going, you're paying your money, which is great. If that is your #1 school and you get accepted, your job is done. You are ready for the next year and beginning college.
Could I say something about that?
Yeah.
Well, Ms. Lehman can comment on this, but I think the only advantage with early decision is that colleges will accept, the University of Michigan might have 65,000 applications, and they might accept, I don't know, something like 15,000 of those. And then ultimately, so many will go to the University of Michigan. And the difference between the number that they have accepted and the number that actually go there is the yield rate. And so if you go early decision, you're committing to that school. They don't even have to think about you in the yield rate. So Ms. Lehman might correct me if I'm wrong about this, but you might have a slight advantage if you go early decision. It's a huge commitment, but because you're not factored into the yield rate, they set you aside and say, okay, that Fanny is going to be in that desk in that lecture hall, And then one more thing I wanted to say about the rolling. I think that students quite often, they prioritize the colleges that they want to go to by the selectivity. Try to avoid that. So if you're looking at MSU and U of M, MSU, despite what they claim, they say now they're an early action school, but actually they're not. They do accept people in October before their deadline. So if you're looking at MSU and U of M, as long as you get that thing in by November 1st, and I hope you get it in by, mid to late October and you don't wait till the last minute. But, you're fine as long as you get it in before November 1st. Say MSU is your second choice, you should apply to MSU first. Because as Mr. Blakesley said, if you fit their profile, they will let you in early October. And so seats fill up. It's kind of like musical chairs. And so with a rolling decision school, that I know that some people, I read on, if you want to go to the most neurotic site on the web, go to College Confidential. And so a young woman, she had applied to all these really high, very selective universities. she waited until Christmas break to apply to MSU. And she was surprised that she was deferred into the spring semester. Well, that's because she waited so long.
Yeah.
So just think about that. Apply to your rolling admission schools first,
All right.
and then
Mr.
with early
Forsman?
decision, it might
Oh,
help,
you're cutting
but it's
out.
a commitment.
I can't hear you again.
I think what's also important to understand too is
Nowadays.
while early actions deadline is November 1st, you guys should keep in mind that November 1st should be your deadline for your top 3 schools.
My audio.
I mean, and like Mr. Forsland said, I would definitely do it way before that deadline. But again, your top 3 schools need to be in. Rolling admissions means you could be admitted in August for the start of that school year. But again, you're risking that opportunity of really being accepted when you want to be and where you want to be if you wait. So the best thing you can do is begin in the beginning on August 1st, get those top 3, top 5 schools in and done. And many of our students, believe it or not, have these completed even before school begins. So that is your priority the month of August, so that when school actually starts, now you can work on the academics and enjoy your senior year.
Mr. Forsman?
Yes. By the way, I'm not hijacking Mr.
No, no.
Blakesley's presentation, but
No, please.
okay.
Mr. Forsman, do you write recommendation letters or no?
Yes, I do.
All right.
But as has been said here, it's a good idea to first personally ask a teacher for a letter of recommendation. Don't have the teacher's first contact from you be being summoned through the Common App.
Correct.
That's bad form. So normally you send a personal through the school email account. Would you please write me a letter of recommendation? And a lot of teachers like a brag sheet, so that you kind of list off little bullet points of what what that teacher doesn't know about you. My wife is sitting next to me right now. I think that she teaches German, and she's had students for multiple years. I think that, of course, yeah, I write letters of recommendation, but and I know you pretty well, but I would try to find teachers who know you really well. She's had some students for 4 years, and can write a really strong letter of recommendation for that student.
And Salman, I will write you a real good one too. So.
All right, I'll ask you first.
All right, so here it is. The recommendation letter is actually the next slide. And the key is to ask for them right now. So as soon as you're done with this call, get on your email and start sending out your requests. Before you do that, hit this bit.ly link. And what it's going to do is it's going to give you recommendation letter recommendations. And I think the first one, as Mr. Forsland said, is you always ask for it before someone else asks for it. So you don't want a job calling, a job calls up and says, oh, so-and-so put you down as a reference. I'm like, really? Okay. And I like the way you put that because it's bad form. So go to this link, make sure you hit this link and go through and read the information. And there are certain questions that, at least for me, it's very easy then if you just answer the questions, open up a Google Doc, share the information. I know sometimes people will put out the, well, here's my resume or here's my transcript or things like that. The reality is I recommend doing 3 letters from 3 very different people. So if you're going to do a teacher, then get a coach and then a job reference or something like that. Because the more you can show how diverse you are in where you're getting your information, the better you're going to look. So
I have a question.
Yeah.
How serious would colleges take your rec letters?
Actually quite. So I have a fun story with that one. I had a student, Annie, several years ago who had a 1.7 GPA. And she really wanted to attend MSU. And she said, well, that's my dream school, but there's no way I'm going with the 1.7. So I said, why, what's going on? And she said, oh, well, you probably don't know this, but my father disappeared when I was very young. My mother is in the throes of cancer right now. I'm taking care of 3 children at home. I've got all these other things going on. I'm like, oh, are you kidding me? So I wrote this letter of rec for her and was able to talk about those things so she didn't have to. because she didn't want to come across as like, oh, poor me, accept me because my life is terrible. But I got to write and said, hey, look at what she did in my classroom, considering she was doing all these other things. And then her college essay was all about how her life was. And she didn't go to that poor me type of essay. And MSU actually called her up, invited her up there, and they did an interview with her, sat her down. And I think a lot of it was just to verify, is this really true kind of thing, sadly. But they ended up accepting her, and she graduated from there. So the letters and the essays that you write can really, really make a difference, truly make a difference.
How many letters of rec do we have?
So I would do 3 from 3 different sources just to cover your bases. And if you can only get teachers, then make sure they're not all in the same department.
Yeah.
Okay, someone else is going to jump in.
Yeah, if I can just add, I would definitely pick a teacher based on your career interest or your academic area of strength as your number one. That's the one where you've done the best in academically in school and can really support that. And I agree with Mr. Blakesley. The recommendation letters do an impact. They always will end up doing a positive impact. They are not the deciding factor of you not getting accepted. They are what will help you get accepted. So with Mr. Forsland saying, reach out to those teachers and, share with them why you've picked them, and then give them the information to make sure that they're ready to also support you the best way possible.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
For the colleges I'm going to try to go to, I want to try to get a good scholarship out of college. How can you find out what scholarships a college is giving out?
So the universities themselves will have links. So when you go to the university, can you give me one of the names just for?
Oakland University.
Okay. So if you go to Oakland, and there's usually a search bar on the top, you can put in scholarships and it will take you to it. Most of the websites most of the colleges will actually separate them for you too. There are undergrad, like the first 2 years, and then there are the graduate levels, which they consider the second 2 years there. So when you go, you should see a list there. I'm actually going to give you a website at the end too that will give you a ton of scholarship opportunities. Just you're going to get them emailed to you, which is even nicer. It's one my daughter did, and she was able to graduate from Central without any debt at all because she kept going after the little $500 scholarships or $1,000 scholarships, but they just kept adding up for her.
How do you know what scholarships you qualify for?
You just have to read through their qualifications. And then this website I'll give you later will ask you a ton of questions, and they'll only send you ones that you already qualify for.
Thank you.
Once you submit your application and you qualify for a scholarship from their university, they will notify you of it. So there's another reason to submit your applications early so that you're in that pool of students that will be accepting a scholarship as well.
All right. So it should be easy to remember. bit.ly PCEP rec. So that's the recommendation letters. PCEP rec. All right. So a couple other things I want to make sure to consider before we actually start talking about writing the essay is it's amazing how many people I hear say, oh, what are your plans? And it's like, I'm just going to Schoolcraft. And oh boy, I want you to get out of that mindset. Just going doesn't make sense. Do not downgrade any kind of post-high school education that you're going to get. And to be honest, that was something I tried to get my daughters to do, was to do 2 years at a community college, because the credits will transfer to the university that you end up wanting to get the degree from. So it's a third of the price. You save all kinds of time and hassles. And it's something especially to consider if your universities announce that they're not going to have face-to-face classes. So if you have to be online anyway, pay 1/3 of the cost, start at a community college, and then transfer the credits up and over. So please, please, please do not discount those. Don't say, I'm just going to. That's an impressive accomplishment. The other one that I hear oftentimes is people say, well, I want to get a U of M degree, but I'm going to start at, and they'll say, usually it's instead of Ann Arbor, it's Dearborn. A couple people have said Flint. Understand that a U of M degree is a U of M degree. People don't ask which campus you are on. A U of M degree is a U of M degree. And again, I can't tell you how many students who said, I'm going to start in Dearborn, who end up loving it and staying there and graduating there. Third is choose the right school for you. Please don't make the mistake of saying, I want to go to a prestigious college, because it may not be the right school for you. Make sure you do your research and find out which university is going to offer you the best opportunity for what you want to do. So for people who are going into medicine, I always tell them, or I ask them, do you plan to stay in Michigan or do you plan to leave? Because if you look at the numbers, if you're staying in Michigan, U of M has a better program because they tend to hire their people into their own hospital system. But Wayne State has a higher rate of placement outside of the US. So please, please, please do your research and choose the right school for you. The other thing is, don't let your friends choose the school for you. That's another mistake that so many people make, is they're like, well, no, I'm gonna go where my friends are going because I don't feel comfortable with this. And no, don't do that. And then don't pick a school that doesn't have the program that you're interested in. And then the last one is the trade schools. The talking with the people who are in the trades and working with the CTE department, it is amazing to hear things like an electrical engineer will go $10,000 into debt going through and getting a university degree, and will probably start at a job making about $40,000 a year. An electrician goes through a program that you get paid to go through and will end up making more money and graduate debt-free. So please, please, please don't discount those. I know there are parents out there who say, oh, that's not what you want to do, but talking to the trade industry people and hearing how they just cannot get HVAC people right now because they have to be good at plumbing and good at electrical and good at heating and cooling. It's amazing what a deficit there is. So please don't discount those as well and think, well, I have to go get this, when a trade school might be the right way to go.
Can I add, Mr. Blakesley, about that? When you say choose the right school, I almost think it's choose the right path.
Oh, yeah.
It needs to be. It needs to be the path that's going to get you where you want to go and what you want to learn. There are some phenomenal trade schools in our area that do an amazing job, as well as universities and community colleges. So it is about choosing the right path for you. And when you do that, you will excel. We've seen it again and again. And when you choose something where your friend wanted you to do, it's not really great. It doesn't go well. So it's choosing the right path for you is really important.
Excellent.
JB, I have a question.
Shoot.
So say if you go to community college / Schoolcraft, how do you, so after you're done with your first 2 years, can you transfer to any college, or does that college have to accept you first?
Yeah, the college has to accept you. But often, you know, what you do is when you talk to, like, Schoolcraft is very good. They will actually give you the information. So you tell them where you want to go, right? So I plan to graduate from Michigan State. They will help you and know which classes will transfer, right? So they're very, very good about that. You know, if you're upfront with them, they love it because then they can help you get to where you want to go.
That's their job.
When you graduate from MSU or wherever you end up going, it's not like it says you took 2 years at Schoolcraft and 2 years at university. It's a university degree. So it's a really intelligent financial decision to do 2 years at a community college before you head up, unless you absolutely want that or have a ton of scholarship money that you're ready to spend. Ms. Lehman, were you going to jump in on? No? Okay. So why the essay is important is...
I'd say one little thing about the community colleges.
Absolutely.
I put on there, let's see, there's a fantastic website. It's called the Michigan Transfer Network. And so they will tell you, Mr. Blakesley had a great point about if you go to Schoolcraft and say, I want to go to Michigan State, they'll tell you what classes to take. If you can feed them into this kind of search engine at the Michigan Transfer Network. So what you would do is you would say, okay, I want to go to MSU, or I want to go to Grand Valley, or I want to go to U of M, and you find out maybe what their graduation requirements are. So you see, what math classes do I have to take at MSU. Everybody has to take a math class. Everybody has to take a natural science, a social science, a humanities. And so you find out what their graduation requirements are. Then you can go to this Michigan Transfer Network and see what the relevant course is at your community college that will transfer off to your destination school.
Awesome.
Okay, so that's the Michigan Transfer Network. It's a great website.
Well, thanks for sharing that one. I didn't know that one. All right. So why the essay, now jumping into the essay specifically, is so important is I always had fun going to the university presentations when they would come out and talk to the students who were interested. And one of the things that always struck me as just mind-blowing was the idea that a university like U of M would be allowing 10,000 new students in, freshmen, but would have 50,000 students apply. And I had this up and I had this ready to go. And then I went to the presentation and they said, no, actually it's 65,000 students. So the mind-blowing thing is to consider, wow, wait, I have a 1 in 6.5 chance, like, ooh, that's not really good statistically that you're going to be getting into that university. So you do have to set yourself apart. And I've noted at the bottom, numbers may vary greatly due to circumstances, but I've given you the military semper paratus, which is always be prepared, right? So the idea is you are competing against these universities to get in, or competing against these other students to get into the university. I don't want that to be a deterrent to you. Don't use that to freak out. That's kind of one of those things though that says, all right, I have to be careful not to say the same thing that so many other people are going to be saying, and to remember that you might be a big fish in a small pond. So you might say, well, I have a 4.2 GPA. There's no problem getting into this university, but now you're competing against people with a 4.3, right? So the idea is you have to set yourself apart. You have to do something different. You have to get them to notice you, to be a standout among the other, 65,000 students who are going to be applying. The other thing here was suggested is several of the universities do not require an essay, but they suggest it. So what that means to you is still write it. And I'm going to tell you what to write for that instance, or you can go to Common App and pick one of those essays and send that information up as well. And then what you do is you contact the university and you tell them, I know you don't require this, but please add this to my file for when you make your decision. And my fun narrative story on that one is my daughter did that for Central. And when she applied, she sent in her application essay, and 48 hours later got a call that said, we want you to be in our leadership program. We want to give you money. Please come to our university. And so she was super, super excited and said, oh my gosh, Dad, I thought you were joking, but it really worked. All right. So the other thing to consider with when we're talking about the ACT and the SATs is there are many, many universities, and it's funny reading daily how many are jumping on board. The whole University of California system now is on board that they don't want SAT or their ACT scores. They're telling everyone, please apply. We're not even looking at those. You can send them, but it's not going to carry the weight that it used to. Kalamazoo College, I think 3 or 4 years ago now, said, we don't even want it. Like, just send us who you are. We don't need that one test, one day, one high pressure stakes, that we want the full package of, the information of who you are. So you can check and see, because the universities will often post up there whether or not they're going to take them. I had the opportunity to talk to an admissions officer at Central who happens to be a friend through, because my daughter going up there. And she told us Central is the same. They're like, yeah, we're not really putting any weight. We're not even asking our juniors who are going to apply for next year to send it in, because, they're going to take the test in the fall and the summer. And it's a nightmare to try and base it on that. So I loved hearing that. I was like, oh, thank you, Jesse.
Can I say what? Oh, go ahead, Barb.
Please.
Yeah, can I interject the point is, to take the SAT during the school day that we offer usually in April, but will be this coming fall for you current juniors that will be seniors, it is a graduation requirement. So it is that we do expect that you will sit for that exam. And yes, most schools will not be using it. Many, it seems every day, like Mr. Blakeslee said, are coming on board that will not be looking for those scores. But also send them to the universities if you take it, because many times the school might use it for help in placement and giving you the right course to start with at their college.
I just add to that read the fine print. COVID-19 has really thrown the standardized test into kind of a spin. If you look at some schools, they've gone test optional. Now, like Mr. Blakeslee said, Kalamazoo College has been test optional for a few years. Wayne State, Oakland U, they just said that they went test optional. But MSU went test optional except for scholarship consideration. So as far as just getting into MSU, they will, you don't have to submit a standardized test score this year, okay? But in order to be considered for merit aid, there are two kinds of aid, and maybe Mr. Blakeslee will go over this, need-based aid and merit aid. In order to be considered for merit aid, you have to submit a standardized test to MSU. One other little footnote, that this is kind of like the unintended consequence of test optional. If a school is test optional, and like Mr. Blakeslee said, you can submit the test if you want to, only the students with like stratospherically high standardized test scores tend to submit them. So when you look at the profile of the average applicant to that school, you say, oh my gosh, look at that SAT score, look at that ACT score. It's so high, I can't compete with something like that. Well, that's because only the kids who have very high standardized test scores have submitted them. Those with mediocre test scores but high grade point averages, they have not. So be careful when you see those. If it's a test optional school, don't be misled by these really high standardized test scores.
All right, good point.
That kind of goes into the point too. I know somebody has asked about when should we and how many should we send. A college will never hinder you from an SAT score, in the sense that if you take it 2 times and the first time is your best score, they're going to take the best score. They will always take your highest score into consideration, and they don't penalize you for taking it more than once. That's always been their understanding. They know that there are things that happen and issues that fall, and it just doesn't work the right way, and it's not the perfect Saturday or whatever day it might be. So when you do send them, they'll always look at your highest score. So understand that too, as you start to make the decision if it's right for you to take it more than once, whatever's your best choice.
I had a question regarding the SAT and ACT.
Okay.
So if you took both the SAT and the ACT, do you need to send both, or should you only send your better of the scores?
Ms. Lehman, do you want to jump on that one?
I would tell you to always send your scores, because again, every school looks at the scores a little bit differently, uses the data in different ways, uses it for placement in different ways. And I think that for every university, I would send them, because they'll take the best of what they see happening. And there are some smaller schools that will start to make new scores based on looking at the composites, the breakdown between each subject test within those scores.
Now, the other thing too to consider is if you feel that you're borderline, like I see, like one of the questions in here is, how do you decide whether or not to send it? If you feel that you're borderline, that you're competing with more people, then it is better to send it, to give them that little bit of information, even if you're not, I really wanted to, whatever this score and I didn't quite get it. It doesn't hurt to send a good score. Maybe not the score you wanted, but something, because it may end up helping them make that decision too. So I use this slide to tell you, don't stress about it. I'm not trying to say don't send them in. All right. So how long do you think an admissions officer spends with your essay? Anyone want to jump in on that one?
If I remember correctly, it was like a minute.
Yeah, so 2 minutes if you're lucky. 30 seconds, you have to catch their attention in 30 seconds. 2 minutes they will spend with it. So you have to make sure one of the most difficult parts of writing this essay is to be concise, to use the right words, to get the information that you want to them as quickly as you can. So when we talk about doing that, what they already know is you're going to fill out an application that has your transcript. So they're going to know all the classes you took. They're going to ask you on the application, what extracurriculars did you have? What job did you have? What awards did you win? So the essay itself is your opportunity to talk about something that's not already there for them to see. So you want to make the decision to think, okay, if they already know about this, is there something on there that I want to expand on? Or is there something else that I want to make sure to tell them that will set me apart from everybody else? So many people kind of lose this area because they give them a laundry list of things that are already on the transcript. So don't use the essay to talk about something that they already know. The idea is they need to start reading that essay. You need to catch their attention in 30 seconds so they read it through and remember you as a person. All right, so 4 takeaways from this. No matter what question you are responding to, you always have to think, I have to talk about me. So no matter what, even if it sounds like they want you to talk about the university, they don't. They'll ask a question like, well, what drew you to this university? And so many people make the mistake of saying, oh, you offer this and you offer this and you offer this. The problem is they work there. They know that. You're wasting your time and their time, and they flip those over and go, When they ask you what drew you to the university, they're asking, what is it about you that drew you to the university? So no matter what, the essay has to be about you. All right. Second, make sure you answer the prompt. So too many people will make that mistake too, is they'll send me something and say, oh, I wrote this essay for this other school and it was phenomenal. Can I send this in? And I'll say, what was the prompt they were asking? No, because you're not asking or answering what they've asked you to do. So be sure you're answering the question of the prompt that they're asking. Did you stay within word limit? Now this becomes important for, like, Grand Valley, I know, has a block that you will put information in. Instead of asking for one long essay, they have you do 6 or 7 short, like, paragraphs. So they'll ask you this question and they'll say, you have 500 words, 1,000 words, whatever it is. So you write it into Google Doc, have Grammarly turned on, make sure everything is set, then you'll copy and paste it in. If you don't do a word count, what happens on their end is it cuts off at whatever number. So if you have 600 words in a 500 word block, you won't notice, but they will, because the answer will just suddenly stop. So make sure you're staying within word limit. And the idea is make sure you try and get as close to the word limit as you can. So Common App says 650 words, 649, that's your goal, right? So some people will send something in and they're like, well, I told everything I need to tell in 300 words. I go, you have 300 more words to use. Why wouldn't you give them more information about something like that? Or someone who says, well, I hit 700, but I can't cut anything out. That's when you get an editor to come help and say, well, you can say this, you can redo this.
Can I say one little thing about that? How helpful contractions are and things like that. You'll probably be writing way over the limit. Yeah. And then you go back through and you do a lot of, if you're being redundant, if you're not using contractions, if you abbreviate the name, don't say Michigan State University, say MSU, that counts as one word.
Yeah.
There are little tricks that way. And plus, I don't know if this blindsided us when our daughter was applying for undergrad, but Grand Valley's Honors College and Bard College both had her upload PDFs of graded essays from high school. So if you have any of those graded essays, and they're good ones, set them aside. You know, this is your junior year. I don't know what year you guys are, but I'm assuming that you guys are juniors. If you have essays from this year, set them aside so you can scan them in as PDFs, because they might want you to upload those things. I had never seen that before. Maybe Ms. Lehman has seen that quite a bit, but that was something completely new.
Can I add the only hesitation? I know we talked about this, and I know Jeff, or Mr. Blakeslee, you'll continue this, but make sure that if you're doing a Common App and you've got top 3 schools that you're sending it to, do not put the university in your essay.
Right.
If you're sending it to 3 schools or 5 schools or whatever it might be, just be cautious of identifying a university specifically.
Yes, very much. And then was it proofread several times and then once more? And I'm going to talk about that specifically in an upcoming slide about the dangers. All right, so with the essay questions, there are 3 different types that they're going to, one is very clearly, it'll just be, tell us about you. The second one is that dangerous one that they say, why are you picking us? And then the third one are the head scratcher questions. So your Common App essays, these were the prompts that they had listed, and you'll see here, there was no change, revised, which means that it was something that they've changed over the last couple of years. And you'll see things like some students have a background, interest, talent, so meaningful, they believe that that you have to share the story. So this one is obviously, oh, okay, talk about me. And what's interesting about these is you can talk about any kind of background, interest, or talent. So I had a student several years ago who was applying to West Virginia, and he hit this question and he said, but I am just so vanilla. I have nothing to offer. I don't have a job. I don't do anything like that. I'm not in any sports, any clubs, or anything like that. And I said, well, is there something fun about your family? Is there something about your background? And she's like, no, we go to this unicycle club every summer. I'm like, wait, what? So think about those things that you may not think are interesting, but other people would find interesting. And then, as you look through, you'll notice these are all, they have the word you in it over and over and over. So just that reminder, you. And if you jump down to number 6, talk about an idea or concept that makes you lose track of time. That one's a fun one to write because I can't tell you how many people I read the essay about gaming, online gaming, and losing time. Don't talk about the game. Don't talk about how you spent all this time. Talk about yourself so that they understand why you got so engaged in that. And then number 7, you'll see on here is awesome. Share an essay on any topic of any choice. So it gives you that wide open, okay, I can't answer any of these. Number 7 says, doesn't matter, you can send us whatever you want. The head scratcher ones, these are the ones that are a lot more fun. And you see these at specific universities. University of Chicago loves these. And then for a lot of the scholarships, especially the big money scholarships, will ask for these much more thinking questions. So what book best describes your life? You can see here, the problem that so many people fall into is they'll talk about the book. That's not what you do. You have to talk about your life. So when I was helping a student do this one, she had to write the same thing, okay, what book describes my life? And she said, well, I don't know, like, especially now, my life is just so open. Like I thought I wanted to be a doctor, and then now I'm thinking I want to be this, and now I'm thinking this, and I was going to go here, and now I'm going to go here. And I said, are you kidding? Your book is Where's Waldo? And I was like, oh, okay, now I get it. So she wrote about her and then talked about the book right at the very end, right? So this Waldo doesn't have glasses. That was this decision. This Waldo doesn't have a scarf. That's this decision. So when we look at these, you can have a ton of fun with these, and you can use these for answer 7 on the Common App if you wanted. So did you get into the hot dog debate? Did you get into the cereal debate? Those are kind of funny. Or when you get down to like number 5, Berenstein Bears, the dress, the Mandela effect, what is the truth and how does it affect you? That might be something where Mr. Forsland applies, and he talks about philosophy and the nature of reality, and has a very different essay from me doing the sci-fi response when we talk about multiple universe and all the scientific theory that goes behind that. So the idea is let your personality come through as you answer these and have some fun with them. Plato or Play-Doh? Well, let's talk about both. I'm an academic, but I know how to have fun, right? So consider, no matter what it's asking, talk about yourself. All right, so focus always is you, no matter what. So, sage advice from the University of Chicago: be original, creative, and thought-provoking. Draw on your best qualities as a writer, thinker, visionary, social critic, sage, or citizen of the world. Take a little risk and have fun. And then from me, good writing is never done on an island. Please, please, please team up with somebody during every single stage. So brainstorming, sit down at dinner and say, hey, I'm thinking about writing this. And then ask them for help, ask them for questions, ask them for inspiration. And then when you start doing your writing, that's when you start to team with people who will help you. Don't just send it to a friend. Send it to a friend who will help you make it better. Send it to someone who's not afraid to tell you, this is trash, start over, right? Don't just send it to someone that goes, yeah, this is good, because they don't want to hurt your feelings. So hook into a network that will help you. So there are, English teachers who I'm sure if you send them early enough during the summer who will help, and then you'll see at the end, I'm willing to help all 84 people or however many are on our call right now. So the idea is get help at every single stage. Now, when I say that, you want to be careful too. Don't be the person who sends it 3 days before it's due and says, hey, can you look this over? I want to send it out in an hour, right? Because then, no, that doesn't help. All right. So how do you approach it? You're going to tell us about you. There's the first one. No matter what the question is, try to include where have you been, where are you going, and what's your plan to get there. All right. So if you're not answering a specific question, you can do something called the personal statement. And the personal statement is 3 parts. The first part is the narrative. And I do recommend you start every essay, no matter what the prompt is, start with the narrative story. So those of you who've taken advanced comp, intermediate comp, hopefully you've done the narrative essays, these are stories of your life. So this is something that starts off as if you're on a phone call with someone you haven't talked to in several years. And I say, hey, what's going on? What was the most interesting thing that's happened to you over the last couple of years? You're like, oh my gosh. So, and you start telling that story. That's how your essay starts. Because what happens is the university will get in a list of them, and they'll open up a stack of them, and they'll open up the first one and it'll say, I was captain of the swim team. And you're like, okay. I had a 4.3 GPA. Okay. The day my face fell off was the most interesting day of my life, and you've hooked them in there. Now you've got your 2 minutes while they'll read through it. So the day my face fell off was this awesome narrative about a young lady several years ago who in elementary school ended up falling off a swing and tore up her face on gravel underneath it. And she had to go get surgery done because it was so bad. And she talked about how well they had done, that now the only indication is when she gets really, really hot, she gets a little bit of a red thing, but that inspired her to want to go into medicine to help people in the same way. But you hear that the story starts off with the day my face fell off was the most interesting day. That's what you need to do. So the Yale pizza story, for those of you not familiar, is a couple years ago now. Yale had the question that said, what is something at which you excel? What are you really good at? And this young lady wrote this essay about how she is a master at ordering pizza online. And Yale loved it so much. Not only did they accept her, they called her personally and said, we are so excited to have you join us in the university. We love these out-of-the-box thinkers. And she said, oh, I just wanted to see if I could get in. I'm going to University of Georgia. And she ended up turning down Yale. But the idea is, if you write that essay and catch your attention, that's going to be the most important part. So start with a story about your life. It should start with a story. It's not a laundry list. Second, give them your life goals. So I put life goals on here because those are different from your career goals. So I want you to stop and think for a minute right now. All right. You are going to be given $800 million a day for the rest of your life. You no longer have to worry about money. You're not going to college to get a job to get money. You now have all the money you could ever wish for. Think about, what would you do with your life? All right. So some of us, well, I'd sleep. All right, get beyond that. What would you do with your life now? So many people say, well, I would travel. So I'd ask the question, why? Why would you travel? What do you want to do while you're traveling? Do you want to learn? Do you want to meet other people? Do you want to start a business? Do you want to work, maybe telling people about your trips? Why do you want to travel? What's the important part of that? Some people say, well, I would like experiment. I would buy all this equipment. I would build things. I would invent things. I would help people in some way. Like I would take care of them. I would do this. So think about those, because those are your life goals. If money was not an issue, what would you do with your life? And I want you to consider that's what you should be looking for when you apply to college and when you choose your major. Because if you choose something that helps you achieve that life goal, then you never feel like you're working. It's one of the things for me. I love to travel and I love to help people. Education was the perfect choice. I get to help people for 9 months of the year, 10 months a year, and then 2 months to go travel. So the idea is I meet my life goals every single day. I love teaching because I'm doing what I want to do that's not related to money. So think about what is it that you want to do. Now, when I've done this live, I've had some people raise their hand and they're like, well, I just want to sit around and play video games. I said, okay, do you understand that you can get a job in creating video games? I had a student several years ago who did a dual major in English and in code writing, right? So game design. So what he was doing is he was beta testing all of these games that were coming out and talking about the dialogue because of his English background and talking about the gameplay because of his gaming background. So literally all he did was play games all day, right? So he was making money. He goes, I can't believe people are paying me to do this, to be a beta tester. I had another student raise a hand and said, I just want to go sit out in the woods all day. He works for the National Forestry Service out in the West. He drives a four-wheeler out, climbs up to the top of the tower, sits there and watches for smoke. And if he sees it, he climbs back down, drives out and makes sure that there's no forest fire starting. If he sees people out there, he gives them this little lecture about being careful about putting it out. Literally, all he does is he sits out in the woods all day. So no matter what you want to do, there is a career for you. You will be able to make money. If you pick a career that you think will only help you get money and you don't like what you do, you're going to be bad at it and people are going to notice it and you will not make money. If you pick something you love and you do it and excel at it, people will notice and you will eventually make the money. So do what you love what you do, and the money will follow. I guarantee it. All right. So think about your life goals right now, and I'm going to jump off my soapbox on that. Third, give them a plan. The universities love to hear that you have a plan to meet your goals. And why they love that is they have so many people sign up and they'll spend a little bit of time in the university and then they drop out. University loses money. They don't like that. So if you come to them and say, here's where I've been, here's where I'm going, university, here's how you're going to help me, then the university, oh, awesome. All right, we can do what we need. And here's someone who knows what's going to happen. This is someone who's going to stick around for a while. So think about how the university will help and do that research. Like I said, pick the right university for you so that you know how they're going to help. And oftentimes, if you can throw in specifically how they're going to help, they know that you've been researching the university, and that gives you a leg up as well. So if you can talk about a specific professor or a program or something that's going on in the university, that's going to be even more powerful to your essay. And it goes way at the end, right, is your plan. So here's my story of how I started. Here's where I want to go. Here's how I plan to get there and how the university is going to help me. So those 3 parts, 750 words, 1 page, that's your personal statement. If you can get that information into answering one of the other questions, more power to you. I am absolutely willing to help you. I'm very excited about doing that. All right. So how do you approach it? You know, we look at the different questions. Oh, there's another one of my favorites. A wise guy and a wise man are opposites. Discuss. So we look at something like this and they say, well, tell us about yourself. And I had a student who said, okay, well, I like to be surrounded by people with a variety of backgrounds and interests. And I went, okay, but I don't believe you. So we made the rewrites, went over and over and over, and ended up with, during that night, I sang the theme song from Casablanca with a little old lady, discussed Marxism with a basketball coach who thinks he's Tom Izzo, and heard more than I ever wanted to know about a woman's gallbladder operation. So the sentence is longer, but look at the information that's in here. We know that the person likes classic movies because there's an allusion to Casablanca. We know that the person understands politics, right? So who's had social studies, understands Marxism, is a sports fan, specifically an MSU sports fan, because they mentioned Tom Izzo, the head basketball coach. And this person is nice, right? Is willing to listen to some conversation about a gallbladder operation, but didn't walk away from it, heard more than I wanted to. So again, it's all about getting as much information packed into as few words as you can to get your message across. All right, so things like, I help my friends. I'm always there for anyone who needs it. Again, I shake my head at that and go, nope, are you there right now? Wait, what? I said, are you there right now? I go, no, I'm here with you. Then you're not always there with them. So be careful about these kind of words like that. Give specifics, give them examples, talk about that. So when my friend Jamie was dealing with the loss of her father, I spent many sleepless nights at her house helping her process. When she would get into the fits of depression, I had her tell me stories of the fun times they had shared. So here's a very specific part of this person's life who gave some information about who that person is and how willing they are to, help out the friends. Not, I'm always there for anyone who needs it. All right, so again, don't give a list of accomplishments. That's already on the transcript. Look for ways to tell a story, not a bunch of short, choppy sentences. And don't tell them how awesome they are. They work there, they know. Please, please, please focus on yourself. So have a theme that can run through the essay. That's going to make it stronger. Think of it like a piece of fiction. It's got to let them know who you are. So I'm noticing up here, how long do you say a typical essay is? Common App is 650 words. The essays will range everywhere from, I had someone who had applied for a scholarship, they were allowed 1,000 characters. That was the funniest thing. They had written out this whole thing and said, oh, I hit 999 words. I go, that doesn't say words. He was like, wait, 1,000 characters? That's like a sentence. Yep. So they're going to be all over the place for the length. All right, so the importance of voice. Without overthinking it, water yourself down to one personality trait. So if we were in the classroom, I would say, share it with somebody else. Think about that. What's your one personality trait? Can you water it down to one? And that's a tough thing to do. But if you can do that, it can help with your essay because that's the voice you're going to give. So I absolutely am a humorist. I process grief through humor. I get rid of my anxiety through humor. I tell really bad and inappropriate jokes, usually keep them up here. But that's how I do that. So when I go to write my essays, I tend to make them humorous, right? I have fun with it. I look at it and put in sarcasm or verbal irony or whatever I can do to have some fun with it and let that come through. But that doesn't make mine better than someone who is very serious and analytical, that's what they water themselves down to, because we're going to be different. So think of your voice, water yourself down to one personality trait, put that into the essay. All right, let that come through. And then proofreading. Oh, I cannot stress this enough. Because if you send in a bad one, you're giving them one of two choices. You're either bad with grammar or you're lazy. Neither of those are good. So please, please, please think about getting the proofreading. The Go Blue story was a young lady, again, several years ago. She had applied to MSU, wrote this gorgeous essay, and at the very end said, that's why I want to be a Spartan. She said, well, I was actually going to apply to U of M, but I don't think I'll get in. That's my dream school. I said, oh, come on, you got to apply. You got to try. And she's like, well, can I use the same essay? I said, yeah, just make a few tweaks. So she wrote it, sent it. This was in the days of mailing it in. She actually put it in an envelope, dropped it in the box, and realized as she let go, as it went into the box, she didn't change the last sentence. She sent it to U of M Ann Arbor that said, that's why I want to be a Spartan. She didn't get in, and she doesn't know if it was because of that or if it was something else. Things like this. I love this one. Someone had sent this in to the university, to Michigan State. I love to torture. I torture kids after school and weekends sometimes. Young kids are the best to torture because of the looks on their faces when they get it. I'm a proud NHS torturer. So you see the issue here, they misspelled tutor, they let autocorrect fix it for them, they never proofread it, and they sent in something that sounds terrible. And then some ones that just I've collected from that day on. Daniel was my best friend, but it doesn't say friend. I have a blank page before me, but by attending Purdue, my pen is ready to write my life story. Not what you want to send up. The dance recital was starting and I was so very nervous. I see why you were nervous. That doesn't say recital. So be careful, be careful, be careful. You're not sending in things like that. Another student, again, cracked me up. This is the very first sentence he had written. When I get older, I want to be a racist. And I went, wait, what? What? And I stopped and I said, no, we need to talk about this. I haven't read through your whole essay. I read the first sentence and I went, what? And he said, I want to be a racist. And I said, okay, you want to be honest in your things, but be careful of honesty, honest for honesty's sake. And he said, why is that bad? And I said, racism is not a good thing. He's like, no, racist, like Indy 500, like cars. Oh, they're called race car drivers. They're not called racists. He legitimately thought they were called racists. So please be careful about what you're writing. Have someone else proofread it. So there are several lines of defense. First one is to write something, walk away for 24 hours, come back to it, read it aloud. Even better, read it aloud to somebody else or have someone read it to you. That's what I love. Second, send it to PaperRater so it can make the corrections for you. It will tell you, it doesn't actually make the corrections for you. It tells you where you've got errors, where to fix things. So send it there, look through it, and then go make your changes. Don't necessarily change everything. If it changes something that you say, no, that changes my message, don't make the change. Have someone else proofread it by reading it aloud to you. This is my favorite, because then you get to hear what it sounds like in someone else's mind. So write it out, take it to dinner, sit down and say, Mom, will you read this to me? Right? And if you cringe and go, ooh, it probably means you need to rewrite it anyway, right? So have them read it through, take the constructive criticism, have them read it through and say, all right, what did you like? And what would you change? Not necessarily you thought was bad, but what would you have changed if you were writing it? And oftentimes they'll give you some great information on that. So I am gonna post this, and once it's posted, these are actually, there's gonna be links in here. This pitfall will give you some more information, but some of the pitfalls to worry about. Dicto simpliciter, it is the Latin words for oversimplified language. So avoid words like always and never and everybody and nobody, because as soon as you start using those generalizations, you're not talking about yourself anymore. Be careful of ad misericordiam, which is Latin for to the sad heart. You don't want to write an essay that says my life has sucked and my life is just terrible and you need to finally give me that break I need, because they don't like to hear those. So don't do, they're called poor me essays. Don't do those. Don't blow smoke. Again, don't talk about how awesome the university is. They don't want to hear that. They want to hear about you. Be careful about being a big fish in a small pond. You do need to brag. This is your time to toot your own horn, but be careful of how you word it by making it sound like you're that much better and you're proud of how awesome you are, because there may be someone who's applying who's better. Be careful of being too honest. I had a student who wrote about being drug-free. And I thought, okay, is that really what you want to talk about? Is your use of drugs when you were younger? And he was like, oh, I'm so proud of it. I've gone a whole week now. And I went, oh, no, please, let's not write that essay. So yes, be honest and be very careful that you're honest. Don't make up something that's not true, but don't be honest for honesty's sake. And then again, please, please, please have someone else proofread it. Please have someone, and take it to heart. If they start reading it and they're reading it wrong to you, don't say, hey, you're reading it wrong, because you won't be able to say that to an admissions officer. You have to say, oh, wait, okay, you read that wrong. How do I reword it to make it read like it's, happened in my mind? So again, review, always about you, no matter what. Include a narrative story, your goals and your plan, and make sure it has been proofread. So here is the information. If you have your phones, you can take a picture of it. Again, this will be posted. But if you're paying for college, FastWeb is my favorite. You can go to fastweb.com and it's going to ask you a series of seemingly very personal questions. So answer the ones you're comfortable with. And what happens is it will scour all of the scholarships that are available and send you a weekly update that says, hey, because of how you answered their questions, you should apply for these scholarships. So it surprises people to learn that millions, billions of dollars go ungiven, right? Because people just don't apply for certain things. And there are amazing scholarships out there. There is a scholarship for being left-handed. And then just fun trivia for that, the Latin word for left-handed is sinister. Sinister. So apply to FastWeb, go to fastweb.com, answer as many questions as you feel comfortable, and they will send you filtered things like that. Check Scholarship Hunter. That's another good one to give you information on scholarships. And then the university websites, as I had said earlier, if you go into those and you look, if you just hit the search bar up on top, it will give you information on scholarship money that the university gives out specifically. And like I said, my youngest daughter was able to graduate debt-free because she just had scholarships came in and said, here's what's cost, minus $100, minus $500, minus $1,000, minus $1,000, minus $2,000, minus $500, minus $500. And oftentimes what she found, Paige, is that she wrote 3 essays and she got to use them over and over and over. She just tweaked them every time she sent it in.
If I can add, Mr. Blakesley, for
Please.
the scholarships, I love the point about writing 3 essays and being able to use them for multiple.
Yeah.
Our school also posts our our scholarships that are local. Those are ones from the Rotary Club, from the Lions, and all of those organizations that many times the scholarship does not change the requirements. So it is something that you can actually look online now and see what's out there. The kids we know that are the most successful are the ones that get these essays ready and are kind of planning ahead. They're ones that look at a deadline that might be right after Thanksgiving and begin working on it now. Then look at, kind of timing out your year to give your opportunity. And the other key point Mr. Blakesley said, there are so many scholarships that it may not seem a lot when you look at the scope of how much college is going to cost you. But a $500 scholarship makes the difference. It's books for the semester. It is just some additional expenses. And every scholarship is a little different. Some go directly to the university, and then some also just directly give you the check because they know there are other expenses that are out there. It's filling your dorm room with the supplies or getting other school supplies that you might need or gas to drive to classes. So definitely put it as, we consider it almost like a 7th class during your senior year, but the more you look ahead, the more possibilities are there for you, and you really can make a big difference in the pocketbook.
Yeah, excellent. And use the summer, right? Start looking for those things right now. Start writing those essays right now. Get them out to the scholarships. I especially love the ones that don't pay the universities, because that's another one that a former student who came back and she had said, I had a full ride to Iowa for playing soccer. And she says, I don't have to apply for scholarships. And I said, look for the ones that don't pay the university. And what happened was she actually got enough money that she was able to make a down payment on a used car. So, start using those. Buy a new computer, do something like that with it. So I have up on the screen, I recommend, taking a picture with your phone. Again, this will be posted if you want it. But my advanced comp hybrid class on my classes has many great resources. So it'll have the links to the information, but what most students find helpful are the essays that have worked. One of my favorites, and I can't remember the young lady's name, but she was applying to Ferris State at the time to go into engineering. And I had said, oh, is that your dream school? She goes, no, well, not, obviously MIT is. Oh, come on, you got to apply to MIT then. So she ended up sending it in and ended up getting accepted. And hers is a ton of fun to read because she talks about these little bridge builders who were carrying things across this bridge without any fear and listening to it crack and break. And find that essay and read it because it is amazing at catching your attention, making you pay attention, and then suddenly twisting you at the end and going, whoa, that's a real standout. So the enrollment code is here. Again, you just go to My Classes, PCCS K-12. and use the enrollment code. Don't go looking for my name in my classroom. Go into my classes and enroll in this one. And then you can scroll down. I've locked everything else up. That's the only thing you'll see now if you go in there. And then know this, I am willing to help absolutely everyone who is on this video chat right now. So email me over the summer, as early as tomorrow, with any kind of questions. So I'm ready to help with brainstorming all the way through proofreading. But know that the end of August, I start back up with my meetings at school. I'm not helpful. If you wait until school has already started, I'm now with, you know, all of those students, 300 new students that I'm working with. I can't help you like I can during the summer. So as soon as we're done here, get the emails out to the teachers that you want rec letters from, and then start thinking about what you might write for your essay. Hit the Common App, look up the questions. You can go to Google and just type in Common App questions, and it will take you to several sites that have them listed. Start thinking about what you might want to do for those. And don't be afraid. I mean, if you're working through one and you're just fighting it and fighting it and fighting it, fighting it, sometimes if you think about like rose bushes, tons and tons of rose bushes, and you're fighting your way through it, and you're just not getting anywhere, if you take 2 steps back, you say, oh my gosh, there's a total clear path that way. Why didn't I think of that? So if you're really fighting something that's not working, put it away. I'm not going to do that. Let me start ground zero again. Maybe I'll talk about this instead, and bam, it'll fly in that direction. So again, I am absolutely happy to help with everybody. I do want you to notice that R-E-Y, Jeffrey Blakesley, like I said, I go by JB, but if you're going to email, make sure that you're spelling it correctly. And for those of you who are my students who are going to put me in for Common App, make sure you are using this email address, because if you don't, I don't see the request. And I put it on early in there. Arianko already has applied to Common App. I filled out her recommendation already. So I was like, oh my gosh, that's the earliest I've ever done it. She did it in April, I think. So hers is ready to go, and she will be a senior, you know, coming up. So make sure you have this, because I've had students who said, why haven't you filled out the application yet? And I'm like, I don't see anything from Common App. Are you sure you spelled it Jeffrey? And they'll come back and they'll go, oh, no, I spelled it E-R-Y, or I didn't, I just did Jeff dot. So make sure that you have this right. And not just with me, but with whoever, you know, your counselors' names are spelled correctly, your teachers' names are spelled correctly.
Thank you for adding that. That is a key problem that we have. Make sure that you're checking on the school's website for your teacher and your counselor's email address to know how it is completely spelled out.
Yeah. And there are many teachers who don't use, like Mrs. Morelli, if you've had her as a teacher, her legal name is Margaret. So her email address is margaret.morelli, even though she goes by Peggy. So make sure you have that information correct. All right, so that's it. This presentation, if you want to, again, take a picture of it, that's the shortcut to get to it. There's actually more slides after this that give a lot more detailed information in case I wasn't here to do it live. It's so people could read through it and get, but this is basically the stopping point for my information.
Can I add just a couple things?
Please.
I didn't know that how many students did this, but I saw on YouTube that there have been some students who have asked to look at their own application file at different universities. And so there was one, for example, who was at University of Michigan. He applied to the Ross Business School, and he asked to see his file so he could see all the comments that the personnel in the administration, what they were saying about his essays. So he could actually see the feedback that they were saying. Another thing is, I say this to my students, that this may be the most difficult conversation that you have with your parents, even more than the birds and the bees and all that. And you sit down and you say, Mom, Dad, you said that you'd help me out with college. What exactly does help me? You know, so now things happen in life. You know, we have a pandemic right now. People lose jobs, there are illnesses and things. But, you know, for the most part, we said to our daughter, 4 years in school, in-state public. That's what we said. 4 years in-state public. If you want to go to a private school like Kalamazoo, then you have to make up the difference with scholarships. but it's good to get that out of the way in the beginning. And then another thing with paying for it, if you go to the universities, they go to your whatever university that you're looking at, and you go to their net price calculator. Each school has one, and some of them are very intrusive, and the more intrusive that they are, the more accurate they will be. They'll ask you about your household income and all this kind of stuff. Some will ask you about your grade point and standardized test scores, but they will give you a better picture of how much that school costs. Going to college is like buying a car. If you go on a car lot, very rarely do you pay sticker price that's on the sticker in the window. You're going to pay less than that. And that's the same thing with college, whether it's getting scholarships or your family might have need, but look at the net price calculator. And then finally, I saw a comment here by Hamza, and I'm not sure, Ms. Lehman can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but it says, or I'm sorry, Hamza says, for the Common App, I understand that I need to apply as soon as possible. However, it's important to keep reworking my essay. How do I balance that? That's a fantastic question. Well, I would say that, again, Ms. Lehman, you can tell me if I'm misrepresenting you, but I think what she was saying is that start your Common App as soon as possible. You don't have to submit it until November 1st. Now, I hope you submit it late October, but you can be tweaking your essay all that time. In fact, I said to my daughter, this is one of the 3 things she said I did right as a father. And she said, you know, Dad, you were right, because the summer before her senior year, I said, start on your application materials. And she would be sitting there and I'd say, get the laptop, you have a choice, yard work or college application materials. That she got typing very quickly. And when we would go to the cabin, I would say to her, you owe me a half an hour in the morning. Just start chipping away at this stuff. She had a very busy fall of their senior year. And I said, you're going to be running around and your friends are going to be going crazy in late October and you're going to be done. Mm-hmm. And one little thing though, so Hamza, start working on your Common App right away. And then you don't have to submit it until late October for your early action schools. So for a rolling school, yes, you want to get it in September. As soon as Ms. Lehman can correct me, but I think it's mid-September is when transcripts are available. And so you want, as soon as those transcripts go out, that's when your application goes out to a rolling admission school. But with those early action schools, you don't have to have it in until November 1st. So you might set a date. I'm going for October 20th. And so things happen in your life, maybe in mid-September, early October, and you say, wow, I want to tweak that essay. But if you submitted it as soon as possible, then you're going to have to contact the university itself right away. So I hope that sort of clarifies things with Hamza, and I hope that I'm not misrepresenting Ms. Lehman.
Nope, I'm right with you. When you can activate your application, activate it, put your basic information and send your recommendations to your teachers and counselors, especially the teachers that you've already had a conversation with or already reached out to them. But you have all that time, and that's what we do talk about is don't wait until October to start working on it. Don't wait until, you know, even school starting to start thinking about which essay. You have that opportunity now, and create a few docs and just set them aside. And when you have a few minutes, sit down and write some ideas down and then come back to it. I think that was an impactful piece that Mr. Blakesley said is when you get stuck, let it go, come back to it a while later. But that's why we feel like the summertime for kids that do Common App, we want you to have it kind of ready to go. And as soon as you're ready, then submit it. But if you're not ready until October 20th, you're not ready. But at the same time, watch the deadlines, get your information, and do your part of planning ahead. We know those are the kids that are the most successful and have that off their back so that as the senior year begins, because we know majority of you that it will be busy. It will be kind of getting the classes under control and knowing how to do and what you need to do to be successful. But give yourself that time. That's probably the best gift that you can give for yourself. I do want to add, counselors also read essays. We are happy to also give our perspective on it. We like to see what you shared. We also learn a lot more about you during that process, which just adds to our recommendation letters. So anytime that you have an essay that you'd like us to give some perspective to, we're happy to do that. It's a great thing to share. And Mr. Blakeslee, thank you so much for all of the information. One question comes out, is the recording going to be given out so that we can share this with our Google Classrooms?
Yes. So
Excellent.
once it's done and it's rendered, I'm going to send it off to you and the counselors to put onto the junior class Google Classroom.
Excellent.
And then I'll have it on my website as well with in my classes. One of the questions here I want to answer, it was sent privately, didn't go to the whole group, was about declaring majors. So to that, I want to talk about, when you write your essay, it is okay to tell the university that you have no idea what you want to study. And in some cases that can actually be more helpful, because then they look at you and go, oh, you're now a 5-year student, not a 4-year student. So don't be afraid if you don't know what you want to do. Statistically speaking, you're going to change your major 3 times in college anyway. So don't be afraid to go in there and say, well, I don't know. Again, talk about those life goals, right? Talk about, if money didn't exist, what are you trying to achieve? If you do know exactly what you're going to do, by all means, you can put it in, but don't worry about, oh my gosh, I applied and I got in because I told them I want to be in business, but now I've decided I want to be in psychology. That's fine too, right? So don't worry about that.
Can I say one little thing? I'm not nearly as articulate as Mr. Blakeslee, but I have uploaded a bunch of videos about the college application process. I did not get into the essay, so that's why I urge my students to come to Mr. Blakeslee's presentation. But I have a bunch of videos uploaded to YouTube that they go through early action, early decision, regular admission. They go through demographic trends that, you guys, you're special to us, but you're especially special because Michigan just has a low birth rate and we haven't been attracting immigrants. And so that's good for you, because if a school cannot attract students from out of state, like Michigan, 45% of the students are from out of state. At Michigan State, at least 25% of the students are from out of state. But Central, Grand Valley, Western, Wayne State, they're competing for you. And so I have a little bit about that with demographic trends. Now, if you want access to the YouTube videos, I'm going to that's my email address. You can email me directly, and then I will give you the direct link, because mine, you have to be subscribed to them in order to see them. They take about 2 hours to get through, but we've been doing this for an hour and a half. So it's time probably worth investing. So yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Blakeslee. I'm sure, well, I know that the students that I have who I urge to come to the meeting appreciate it very much, but it's invaluable.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Well,
Thank you.
I appreciate both of you and Ms. Lehman joining me as well. Like I said, it takes a village, right?
Absolutely.
All right. Are there any
And I'm
other
the village idiot, so.
any other students have questions for us before we close up?
The only thing I'd add is keep looking at that Google Classroom. This will be posted and more as we get into the fall of your senior year, and we're looking it to be a great one.
Awesome. All right. Well, I'm going to shut down. Thank you all for joining us. We really appreciate it. And again, all 3 of us ready to help. So reach out to us and get those the recommendation letters going. All right.
Thank you.
Good luck, everybody.